Hello guys, I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. This is AfriPost and welcome to today's video.
But I'm in the business of reminding all of us that a prayer breakfast can become an annual ritual without more. Don't make it an annual ritual where we come to say with our mouths what we do not believe in our hearts. There must be a wedding between the words of our mouths and our deeds. That is what character is all about. And I also want to remind this audience, as the good book says, we must, in the nature of things, be Christians of Berea. If you read the Acts of the Apostles, Paul says that he liked the Christians of Berea because whenever the word had been preached, they went out and read the word to confirm if what had been preached was true. And I also want you to go and read. We are talking about character and the followership. Throughout the ages, men and women have followed evil men. And these are those days that we must warn ourselves. I am encouraging you, if you are a Christian of Berea, go and fact-check what I'm saying. And you can even fact-check it as I'm speaking. Read the book of Matthew at chapter 24, verse 24. In the end days there shall come many Christs, and they shall work wonders, and they shall mislead even the very elect, if it were possible. So we must warn ourselves as people who believe in God. We must warn ourselves as Christians in the knowledge, as Paul writes in his second letter to Timothy, as chapter 3, that there shall become a form of Christianity where we shall be lovers of ourselves, where we shall be boastful, where we shall have people confusing people, just as Jannes and Jambres confused the multitude. But we are one to do the right thing. And I'm also telling you that the same Bible tells us that you cannot pretend to be lovers of God whom you have not seen if you do not love your brothers and sisters whom you see. You know, when we talk about character, we are talking about serious business. When we talk about prayers, we are talking about serious business. When my good friend Godfrey was asking people to pray, I'm making some of you uncomfortable, and that is my intention. When he was asking people to pray, he asked several people to pray, and everybody came. And I was asking myself, why must 5 people pray? Why can't it be one? Why? They all said the same thing. Why can't one person pray? 3 members of parliament had to pray. Why? Is God deaf? Must we repeat things to God? Are we like the latter-day Pharisees who pray that men may listen to us? Let us not use prayer breakfast to mock God. Let us use prayer breakfast to say that which is right and to speak the truth to all of us. I'm saying all these because we must say it, because we must not shy away from the truth. You know, before I turn to my subject for 5 minutes, when Christ himself is asked, teach us how to pray, he prays in less than a minute. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Full stop, he has prayed. All these things that we are in the business of asking, God knows before you ask. If he can number the hair on your head, if he knows your thoughts before you say them, don't be like Pharisees. Let us warn ourselves, and let us remind ourselves, as I said yesterday, prayer without action is superstition. We must act. We must do the right thing. Then I've been asked in the context of character to say why Africa is attractive throughout the ages. Africa has always been attractive. It was attractive to the Greeks. They came here and they created their philosophy. Then they called it Greek philosophy. The Romans were here. Christ himself, in the days of adversity, came here. Muhammad, the founder of Islam, was here. The Chinese were here. The Arabs were here. The Portuguese were here. The Spaniards were here. The Dutch were here. The Danes were here. The English were here. The French were here. The Germans were here. This is the mother continent. It is the cradle of humanity. And whenever they have come here with religion, which they have manipulated. And I want to submit and agree with Desmond PLO Tutu that God is not a Christian. No, God is not a Christian. God is too big to be contained in human-made religion. God is not a Muslim. God is not a Hindu. God is not a Buddhist. I remember at one time, in the dramatization of the life of Mahatma Gandhi by Richard Attenborough, he was asked, "Are you a Hindu?" He said, "No. When I was young in Gujarat, I remember attending a temple where the preacher on that day referred to the Christian Bible, referred to the Hindu Gita, and referred to the Muslim Quran, referring from one book to the other, as if it did not matter which book was being read as long as God was being worshipped." And I believe that that is the God that we are worshiping. We who are Christians must always remember that in fact, the very days when we were called Christians, being a Christian was not meant to be a good thing. A Christian, these Christian followers of Christ, it was meant to be a derogatory term. And sometimes we who are Christians, we who claim to follow the Christ, we are arrogant and intolerant. And for our arrogance and our intolerance, we will be punished. There is a message, those of you who are readers of the works of God, in the Talmuds of the Torah, there is a story told that when the Israelites had been drowned, or rather when the host of the Pharaohs had been drowned in pursuit of Israel, and the Israelites were laughing and celebrating, it is said, God appeared unto them and said, "Why do you celebrate when my children have been drowned?" That is the God whom we do not understand. But remember, I was talking about why Africa is attractive. It is attractive because it is the cradle of humanity. And remember, I was saying and talking about Christianity and the manner in which it was midwife to us. Do you know that Christianity was used to justify slavery? Do you know that in the book of Ephesians, in Paul's letter to the Ephesians, he tells people to obey their earthly masters, even the harsh ones? Do you know that the Dutch Reformed Church, on the basis of which apartheid in South Africa was founded, was based on Christianity? Do you know that the Bible has been abused and misused? So, when we talk about the Bible, when we talk about Christianity, you are talking about a man-made thing. That is why we have the Roman Catholic man-made. That is why we have the Anglican man-made to allow King Henry VIII to marry. They are going to have a schism in the church sooner rather than later because of LGBTQ. Man-made. That is why we have SDA, man-made. That is why we have Presbyterian, man-made. That is why we have Methodist, man-made. Tell me which denomination Jesus belonged to. None. So when we have all these denominations coming here and they manipulate us in order to steal our land, Africa is attractive initially because of us. We were commodities to be sold when they first came here. And you will be surprised that those who gave the authority was the Roman Catholic Pope. The initial exploration of the world in the 14th, 15th century to Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama, they had a purple bull to survey the whole world, to come and discover us. We are attractive because we were commodities. We were attractive because we are considered children of a lesser God. We were attractive as a continent after that because of the raw material that we had before the Industrial Revolution. They wanted our rubber. They wanted land to till coffee and tea and cashew nuts. Then they wanted our diamond and our gold and our cobalt. And their appetite never stopped. They sat in Berlin in 1884 to divide their hunting grounds. The countries that they created were not meant to be countries. They were hunting grounds. Tanganyika, as it was then called, was the hunting ground for the Germans. Uganda was for the British, as was Kenya, as was Zambia. The Italians are hunting ground in Libya and in Somalia. The French had their hunting ground in La Côte d'Ivoire, in Benin, in Togo, in New Sudan, now Mali. The Portuguese had hunting ground in Mozambique and in Angola and in Cabo Verde and Guinea-Bissau. The Dutch had hunting ground in South Africa and in Namibia. The Belgians had hunting ground in the Democratic Republic of Congo. These were hunting grounds. The hunters did not want to quarrel. They had fought for too long. They wanted to hunt with ease, and they did. And they incorporated some of us. Then the Spirit of God came unto them, and we started struggling to regain our independence. In the intervening period, our kith and kin had been taken to the United States of America and to Caribbean. And they had been turned into slaves. They lost their language. They lost their names. You only have to watch Alec Haley's Roots, the story of Kinta Kinte, and know why they did it. Africa has been attractive for the wrong reasons. Then we regained our independence. And no sooner had we regained our independence than they tried to disrupt us. Did they not kill Patrice Emery Lumumba 10 months after? Did they not kill Sylvanus Olympio 1 year after independence? Did they not overthrow Kwame Nkrumah in 1966? Did they not use their agents to overthrow Nnamdi Azikiwe and kill Tafawa Balewa and Ahmadu Bello in Nigeria? Was there not a mutiny on a single day in East African countries in 1964 when they wanted to overthrow the government of Tanganyika, Uganda, and Kenya? They were here, the colonialists, because they had lost their hunting grounds and they were coming back. Did they not mount coups in order to regain their hunting grounds? Africa is attractive because of our resources. And if we do not wake up, we will be manipulated. We are now a hunting ground, even as I speak, because a disunited Africa is good for other civilizations. A disunited Africa is good for Europe. A disunited Africa is good for the United States of America. A disunited Africa is good for China. It is good for Russia. It is good for the Arabs. It is good for the tax. In Kiswahili wanasema vita vya panzi furaha ya kunguru. So when we are in that state, we can be manipulated. And we are being manipulated. When Christ will come and he'll say, I gave you, what did you do with it? And we'll say that we are praying and fasting. No, he will not listen to us. The last time I checked, Paul was preaching, praying, and writing letters, and also making tents. Which is the tent that you are making? I can go on and on, but your attention span has suffered and is suffering. So I must conclude. I conclude by telling us that we have lamented for too long as Africans. We have blamed others for too long. The time is now to blame ourselves. For nearly 60 years, we have elected in many countries men and women who ought not to be elected. I remember in 1995, when the great Mwalimu Nyerere was invited at a meeting of his party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, to give his ideas on who ought to be elected as the third president of the United Republic of Tanzania. Mwalimu said many things, but among the things that he said was character. Who do you elect? The African electorate's affinity to thieves is without rival in this world. When you are a thief in Africa, the electorate loves you. When you are a liar in most African countries, the electorate loves you. When you incite people on the basis of ethnicity and tribalism, the African electorate in many countries loves you. When you incite people on the basis of religion, many people in the electorate in Africa love you. When you divide people along gender lines, the electorate in Africa loves you. The ghost of ethnicity, the ghost of corruption, those who claim that they can pray ghosts out, this is the opportunity to pray. Exercise those ghosts. Otherwise, pray no more. Exercise ghosts no more. Because that is what Africa needs. And I've said, and I'm saying it again, the things that require technology will not be achieved through theology. You are not going to pray the 5G to come into being. No. God gave you the ideas because your mind is what God gave you, and we are created in God's image. The image that God talks about is not about how we look. How can God possibly look like me? How can God possibly look like you? Ladies and gentlemen, in order for Africa to realize our potential, we must wake up. Because when we wake up and we are united, we are going to be masters of our own affairs. We are going to be masters of our own resources, and we can only do that through unity. Not the unity of the graveyard where we do not disagree. We will disagree. But remember, ideas must be cross-pollinated and cross-fertilized. It is in civil disagreement that one good idea overtakes another. And I have faith in Africa. I have faith in the young people sitting up there knowing that this is an intergenerational battle. You are the young suckers that will grow when all these old bananas are dead, as Chinua Achebe said. This is a race which we have started, and you must win, and win we must. God bless.
Africa's democracy is characterized by a complex mix of progress and challenges. Many countries have adopted democratic frameworks and held elections reflecting a commitment to participatory governance. However, the effectiveness of these democratic processes vary widely. To help explain the state of democracy in Africa today is one scholar, Dr. PLO Lumumba. He has spoken widely on issues affecting Africa and the need for the empowerment of the African continent. Now let's watch this video, then come back and talk about it more. Now, from the speech, Dr. PLO Lumumba has elucidated some of the most important issues that have affected Africa's democracy. I think it is quite evident that issues such as political instability, weak institutions, and corruption often undermine democratic governance in Africa. Another issue is the frequent electoral disputes, authoritarian backsliding, and conflicts that can disrupt economic norms and hinder political stability. These have been the issues that led to the weakening of Africa's democracy. Now, African democracy continues to face significant challenges due to a combination of historical, political, and socio-economic factors. Some of these include historical legacy. Many African countries gained independence from colonial rule only in the mid-20th century. Colonial powers often drew arbitrary borders and installed governance structures that prioritize resource extraction over stable governance. The legacy of these structures include weakened institutions and political instability, making democratic transitions difficult. Weak institutions, corruption, and governance. Corruption remains a significant problem in many African countries. It erodes trust in public institutions, skews resource allocation, and impedes economic development. When government officials engage in corrupt practices, it not only weakens democratic norms but also perpetuates poverty and inequality, which can fuel discontent and instability. External influences and neocolonialism. The legacy of external influence from former colonial powers and other global actors can interfere with democratic development. Sometimes external actors support regimes that serve their interests, regardless of their democratic credentials, which can undermine genuine democratic progress and sovereignty. And I think this is something that has been very, very evident in many African countries. Most of the leaders that have always been elected are puppets of Western nations. They do the bidding for the Western nations and the former colonizers without considering what Africans or even the people who elected them would want to really get out of these kind of government structures. So this remains a very, very serious issue. Addressing these challenges require a multifaceted approach that includes strengthening institutions, combating corruption, promoting economic development, and ensuring inclusive governance. Only through comprehensive and sustained efforts can African democracies overcome these hurdles and achieve stable functioning democracies. So, as it has been elucidated by Dr. PLO Lumumba, democracy in Africa is something that is still young and it's still at crossroads. And when African leaders come and sit together, only then can they find actual solutions that can deliver to people who desire growth and change. Tell me down in the comment section what you think about this. And if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.